With their red tunics and bearskin caps, the Grenadier Guards are the most famous soldiers in the world.
You can't see anything like this anywhere in the world except UK.
Changing the guard at Buckingham Palace, they constantly strive for ceremonial perfection.
Left turn, get out!
Oh, God, I don't believe it.
But they are also frontline soldiers in the world's most dangerous war zones. For the first time, we go behind the scenes at the royal palaces to show how the pride of guarding the Queen and the sacrifice of war combine to create a unique soldier, the Grenadier Guard. Spring has arrived in London, bringing the tourists with it.
They should march out of here in just a couple of minutes' time.
And for the Grenadier Guards, this means that the ceremonial season is in full swing, with changing the guard taking place daily on the forecourt of Buckingham Palace.
Grenadier Guards were founded in 1656. They have one button all the way down on their jackets. And the Welsh Guards are the newest. They were founded in 1915 and they have clusters of 5 buttons.
I think it's really cool having like a king and queen and stuff.
Yes, typical, pompous and all that.
I'm trying to get a picture of the guards, but there's too many people.
They're changing guards and playing a little song while they do it.
Do you understand what's going on?
No. Nice hat.
The Queen's next-door neighbours are the Grenadiers' ceremonial soldiers who live at Wellington Barracks.
Go forward 6 paces.
Changing the guard is small beer compared to the main event of the ceremonial season, Trooping the Colour, also known as the Queen's Birthday Parade. It's Company Sergeant Major Steve Munro's job to get the Grenadiers' drill inch perfect.
What the are you smoking? Face that way!
But what his men don't know is that he's a Sergeant Major with a guilty secret.
Queen's Birthday Parade, rehearsals and that, I'm close to a coma.
3, 4, 5, 6, in!
It's just day in, day out, doing the same thing, and it's difficult to enthuse and teach a subject that you don't like, but what you can never do is let the blokes know that you don't like it.
Left, bomb!
Steve has just 6 weeks to transform his young guardsmen into this. Trooping the Colour involves 400 men performing perfect drill for over an hour. It's an age-old ceremony which has evolved from the military tradition in which each regiment would parade its flag or colour in front of its troops every day so that they would recognise their rallying point in the heat of battle.
And then one of the kings thought it would be a great idea to do it as a birthday present for the Queen. That's what we do.
Guardsman Jed Catlin is a 5th-generation grenadier. His dad was the last Catlin to take part in the troop in 1985.
He wants to be a soldier again. He misses it. I can see the jealousy in his eyes every time I come back to work, and he's got to go drive his lorry.
But now it's Jed's turn to wear the grenade.
At the Battle of Waterloo, we defeated the French Imperial Guard, took their bearskins, and because we defeated the Grenadier Regiment, we became the 1st Grenadier Regiment of Foot Guards. So we earned our cap badge, we earned our grenade. It's not some weed or flower, it's a weapon, and it's ours.
But it's not just Jed and the guardsmen who are polishing up their act for the big parade. The 50 members of the Grenadier Band have been practicing their music and their marching for months.
It's Musician Davis, you need to come and do this element now. I'll show you what to do.
Sergeant Major Kevin Bird is in charge of the band. This year will be the 20th and final time he takes part in the Queen's Birthday Parade.
Trooping the Colour, 1986. And this is me as a junior musician down at the Guards Depot Purbright in 1984, I think that one was.
On the big day, the Grenadier Band will join up with the 4 other bands of the Household Division to make up the 200-strong massed band. Today, they're getting together for the first time, and for Kevin, it's a chance to pass his Grenadier lore to the new generation.
There's many traditions involved with what we do, and that those traditions should be maintained and passed on to the next musician that joins the band. It's important.
The most difficult and mysterious tradition for Kevin to pass on is known as the spin wheel, which was first filmed almost 60 years ago.
See in the centre now, the mass bands doing a very difficult operation, I always think, the wheel.
It involves some musicians shuffling sideways, others going backwards, with the rest rotating 180 degrees before returning to perfect order. Or that's the theory.
There's nothing written down in the rule book about how this is to be achieved, and it is passed down from generation to generation.
For new band member Abby Davis, this is her first spin wheel, and it's all very confusing.
From what well, we kind of all turn round. I'm not really sure. I just kind of follow whoever's nearest me and kind of hope for the best. It's worked. All right.
While 120 Grenadiers fulfill the regiment's ceremonial duty in London, 600 are in Afghanistan fighting the Taliban. The Grenadiers are here to train the Afghan National Army.
Put your shoulder into it, lean forward.
And carry out frontline operations with them, searching compounds and capturing the enemy. But they also fight the Taliban toe-to-toe alongside Afghan soldiers.
Roger, bring guns up for support, and then I'll move up and get eyes on.
The Grenadiers are operating from bases spread across the most dangerous corner of Afghanistan, Helmand Province.
Joined the army for a driving licence. 6.5 years later, and I'm in the middle of Helmand Province. And I've only got my Cat B. I don't think you necessarily join the regiment because of its history and that. You join it and then you you become part of it, and then you roll with it, and then before you know it, you are it.
It's a good thing, isn't it? It's a good thing that in the army, like, figure as the Queen, not the Prime Minister. You don't fight for the Prime Minister, do you?
Queen and country, innit?
Well, I ain't got a problem with monarchy at all, I am.
You know, when
I ain't got a problem with flipping
monarchy. Haven't. And you hear people slating the we don't need the monarchy and this and that, but that's what makes us British.
Yeah, exactly.
Got a monarchy, got a queen there.
And it's how it is, isn't it?
We're the envy of every civilised...
Are we? Nation.
We're the envy of all civilisation, aren't we, the British? But...
Today, a group of Grenadiers are taking up position on the front line, the town of Sangin.
It's the centre of Sangin. No one looks friendly here. Just about waving. No smiles.
Their commander, Major Marcus Elliott Square, is checking out 3 new fortified outposts with his men.
Rather than being fixed in one location, we now have 3 locations in and around the Sangin area, and we're projecting our force out. If you've got 3 locations which are all supporting each other, all looking out for each other, it makes it a much trickier proposition for the enemy.
This was Marcus 2 months ago in bearskin and winter coat, commanding the ceremonial troops at Buckingham Palace. He was also looking forward to the birth of his first child.
It's a little girl.
How on earth can you tell
from that? She's not showing now, she gave me a glimpse there.
The commanding officer said that subject to operational commitments, he'll get me back in time for the birth, so...
Yeah. Hope she's on time.
She's anything like you, she won't be.
Yeah, if she's anything like her mother, she won't be.
But until the baby arrives, Marcus will be sharing some very rough accommodation with his men.
It's quite austere, but it's only been here for a month.
12 weeks here, or whatever it might be, everyone will just drop like mad.
12 weeks in here.
Walks drift, innit?
12 weeks here, we'll come here, we'll find this whole place sort of decked out in mosaic flooring.
Very grim. This would be where, on a night time, if they're not on duty, we come and stay. This is our living quarters for 3 months. Grim. Very grim.
Turn it right. Turn right. Turn right. Turn right. Turn. No, right. No, right.
At Chelsea Barracks in London, Steve Munro's Grenadiers have joined up with 3 other Guards regiments to rehearse trooping the colour. As well as the Grenadiers, there's the Welsh Guards, the Scots Guards,
Forward.
and the Coldstream Guards.
Straight forward. Just come straight forward. Don't go that way. Straight forward.
The Coldstreamers are the Grenadiers' greatest rivals, and this year it's their turn to troop their colour. Which means that Coldstream Regimental Sergeant Major Pete Carr is in charge of the whole parade.
24, well done.
It's a precious opportunity for him to scrutinise his regimental rivals, the Grenadiers.
I don't mind standing next to some Grenadiers. That's good. Stand at ease!
The rivalry goes back 350 years, to the time when the monarchy was overthrown by Oliver Cromwell.
Well, it all goes back a long way. During the English Civil War, when Charles II fled to Flanders, we, the Grenadiers, went with him. The Coldstream Guards allowed Cromwell to take over, and
I wouldn't sleep at night knowing that I was responsible for the downfall of the monarchy in this country.
Charles II was restored to the throne, and on his return, the Coldstream Guards were formed up on Parliament Hill, and we formed up on the other side. We laid down our arms. Because we were with Oliver Cromwell at the time, and then we picked up our arms in the name of the King. But because by that stage he'd already fashioned this other regiment of foot guards, these Grenadier chaps, they got to be called the first of foot, and we got to be called the second.
Because they were older, though, they thought that they should be the first Guards.
But our motto is Nulli Secundus, which is second to none.
It puts a bit of pressure on us because the Coldstream Sergeant Major wants us to mess up a little bit, deep down.
At Wellington Barracks, Grenadiers past and present are gathering for Black Sunday, the day when they honour their dead. In his role as the colonel of the regiment, the Duke of Edinburgh will lay the wreath on behalf of the men.
There are many here who are remembering those who fell in, obviously, the last World War and in conflict since. It's particularly, obviously, relevant at the moment with the 1st Battalion in a war situation in Afghanistan.
The old boys march to Horse Guards Parade, while the Duke of Edinburgh takes a shortcut through St James's Park to the Guards Memorial. If the memory of fallen comrades had begun to seem distant to these old Grenadiers, events in Afghanistan change all that. A Grenadier has died. Guardsman Simon Davison, the first Grenadier to be killed in action for 13 years, lost his life when the Taliban attacked his checkpoint. He was 22 years old.
We are here to honour Simon, who has died.
The soldiers have gathered to send his body home.
We are here because in one way or another, his death affects us all. I am the resurrection and the life, says the Lord. Those who believe in me will never die.
When Simon Davison died, it fell to his commanding officer, Colonel Carew Hatherley, to write a personal letter to his family.
Writing to a mother when you are a father and a husband and you have children of your own, I think was probably the most soul-searching thing I've had to do since I've been out here. To that family, the letter that I write is something that will last forever, and every word will be pored over forever. And so it's bloody important to get it right.
Simon's body is now being flown back to Britain. In London, Steve Munro has interrupted rehearsals for Trooping the Colour to prepare for his funeral. Using an empty coffin, Steve's young guardsmen practice for what for them will be a step into the unknown.
Bear party, stand still. Again, troops, focus, get your zone, because the Padre will stand here and he'll say, in the name of the Father and the Holy Ghost, and he'll start doing the old rigmarole again, okay? Do not listen to what he is saying or link it with Simon. It is a massively emotionally charged experience. It's hardcore. Focus on something else. This is by far the most important thing to the family as far as what we can do now. When they go to visit Simon's grave, when they think about the picture on the wall, the last memory of anything to do physically with the regiment or to do with Simon is obviously going to be him passing through the curtains at the crematorium. And so we've got to do our part to make sure this is absolutely 100% right down the line. From when it starts until we get to the wake, that is not your time to grieve. It is your time to do your job. If you don't mentally prepare yourself for this and block out everything else, you're going to crumble.
The Grenadiers in Afghanistan are now fighting the Taliban every day. Major Toby Barnes-Taylor is briefing his men about tomorrow's objective.
OK, guys, keep the noise down, please. About 20 kilometres north of here, there's a town called Garmab. The Americans went up there today to literally take the fight to the Taliban. When they got to Garmab, they came under a heavy contact. It kicked off at 10:15 this morning. When I spoke to the company commander at 4 o'clock this afternoon, it was still ongoing. And they had been raining down close air support and everything else on them from that time, like only the Americans can, and they were still fighting for 6 hours. They had taken a casualty, and he has subsequently died. So do not underestimate how good these guys are as enemy, because that will be our fatal flaw.
Just a few weeks ago, Toby was at home with his family. He spent 6 months of last year in Iraq and will now be in Afghanistan for 7 months. For most of the time between these two tours, intensive training took him away from his children and his wife, Sasha.
Nothing prepares you for army life, really, as a wife. Toby's hardly been here, so we've had it very tough.
Welly's on, hello. Oh, mind out.
It's not a real life, really. It's very odd. You have to keep that normality going for the children, really, and they get used to it. He's a great daddy when he's here.
Come on, pick through. They still come up with the question of why can't you come home or anything else like that. And sometimes, it's just a case of daddy's a soldier and we have to stop baddies from hurting other little boys and girls.
For Toby, the grim reality of the fighting is hitting home. During the battle for Garmab, a stray American bomb landed on civilians. The Grenadiers' tent has been transformed into a makeshift hospital.
As a father, it's terrifying to see this. It just sucks your gut out. At least they have the trust that they can bring their children, and we will do everything we can to make sure that we can help them.
London, the daily changing the guard at Buckingham Palace carries on alongside preparations for trooping the colour. Like the ceremony itself, every detail of the Grenadiers' uniform has its roots in real combat.
Back when you used to fight against cavalry, they used to hack down at your face. A curved chain would sit around your face and protect it from it being slashed by a sabre.
The reason that they are red is part of the original camouflage used for the British Army. The enemy would have a spotter to count your frontage, so he knows what firepower you had. The hardest colour to count from a distance is red. It all blurs into one.
The cavalry would try and stick you with a lance. They'd try and aim for that part of your head. So the bearskin would come down past it and disguise that part, and they'd hit the bearskin instead. And then you'd be able to get them with your bayonet.
Altogether, it's a lot to maintain. And 6 months after joining the band, Abby still hasn't got the hang of bulling her boots.
You've had amway on these, haven't you?
Sorry?
Is there an amway or clear on these?
No.
Yeah, but usually if they're broken in, it shouldn't crack, but...
I've not used anything, so...
Oh, you'll be fine then, yeah?
Yeah. Do I need to... How do I use this? I keep just, like, doing it.
Well, you got to turn it on first.
Yeah, I know, but when?
What I usually do with boots, I put all the polish on, let that soak a bit, turn my burner on. I turn that down, she'll have no shoe left. And I gently go over the shoe, like that, and then just pull on top of it.
Okay.
It should come up.
Thank you.
No problems.
Stand still, centre, side post right. 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 Stand still, centre, side post right.
Sergeant Major Steve Munro is busy making the final decision as to which of his men will take part in trooping the colour.
Okay, raise your hands now if you've not got tunic. Too tall, stand over there.
There's no off-the-peg uniform for 6'8" Guardsman Dan Smith, who's nicknamed Too Tall.
Nothing fits. Comes right there. So, getting one made. It should be here for the next week, hopefully.
They are too short and they are too tall, but that'd be tightest. And being an equal opportunity employer, I won't be allowed to say.
The troop's the main thing we do in the year, so that's what I want to do.
If they don't get tunics, then the computer will say no and they won't take part in the troop.
Never mind.
Give you a little bit there as well, sir.
But another very tall grenadier isn't having any problems getting a uniform that fits.
What have you done today? Dropped back to you tomorrow morning, is that all right? Or we might even drop it back tonight.
After years as a civilian, Grant Baker has returned to the Grenadiers as regimental adjutant.
I haven't worn uniform for about 12 years, and yeah, it feels like a real trip down memory lane, I suppose.
Back today, sir.
Fantastic. Okay. This is the sort of job that comes up once in a lifetime, really. I've had an interesting and quite exciting time as a civilian, and but then I just felt it was time for a change, and so I've come back to the fold.
Grant's new job is mainly administrative, but he will take part in trooping the colour. And what's more, he'll be riding a horse.
I'm told I have what's known in the trade as an electric bum, which is exactly what communicates itself to the horse. And when it's meant to be sitting still, I suppose my electric bum makes it get all fidgety.
He has ridden a horse before on the Queen's birthday parade, and it didn't go well.
I spent the entire Queen's birthday parade cavorting round horse guards.
Because of his electric bum, Grant has been teamed up with Snooker, the Household Division's most docile mount. They have just 2 weeks to get to know each other before they ride out together in front of a worldwide audience on the Queen's birthday parade. It's the funeral of Guardsman Simon Davison, the first grenadier to be killed in Afghanistan. All the Grenadiers' off-duty officers attend the funeral and listen to Guardsman Davison's sister Caroline speak about her brother.
So I was probably the strongest, bravest person I've ever known. There'll never be a day goes by that I don't think about him and miss him and wish he was still here. But I know that when death was near, Simon would have faced it with courage like all of his other fellow Grenadier Guards, fighting for what he believed in. I'll never forget the painfully shy, stroppy young boy who joined the army, and nor will I forget the confident, brave, immensely proud young man the army helped him become.
While one young guardsman is laid to rest in England, another arrives in Afghanistan. Stephen Cooper joined the army less than a year ago, and it's just 4 months since he passed out of basic training. From there, he joined the Grenadiers' ceremonial soldiers in London.
Sentries! Past!
Where he guarded the Queen for the first time. Then 3 weeks ago, he was given the news he'd been hoping for.
You will be going to Afghanistan.
Before leaving, he spent a couple of days at home with his mum.
You should be all right. You will be all right. Keep your head down, keep your mouth shut and duck. Keeping his head down might not be a problem. Keeping his mouth shut may be a major problem.
Now we're out here in Afghanistan, finally doing the job that the infantry do. Kind of makes you feel proud to be a Grenadier. I feel like I've finally started off my army career now and gone on tour. Pretty hard saying goodbye to my family and that, because like, I've never really been away from them for more than a couple of months. And I was in training. My mum was phoning me up every 5 minutes.
After nightfall, the Brigadier calls. And Major Toby Barnes-Taylor finds there's a new twist to the story of the civilian casualties from Garmab.
Sir, very clear. Understand your direction entirely, sir, and I'll take it on board, sir. The village themselves have not blamed the coalition force for the damage or injuries. They have firmly blamed the Taliban on setting the ambush and therein bringing this firefight to their village. They've ejected the Taliban from their village. The Taliban have therein threatened to return with far greater numbers, saying we will come back and kill the village. I've got 20 minutes in which to get ourselves ready, and then we'll launch out into the darkness to make sure they're safe.
Hello 0, omelette 1, a radio check.
Toby and his unit will have to cover 15 miles across hostile territory in the dark.
We're going as quick as we can, considering that we've got to get 3 vehicles prepared and set.
Probably about 10-15 minutes needs to move everything loaded, comms, everything replenished. We need infrared equipment, night vision goggles for the drivers. The drivers probably haven't used them before, so we've got to give them a quick course. But yeah, you can't get much more of a challenge than tonight.
Then with lights off, they disappear into the night. Back in London, Sergeant Major Steve Munro is rehearsing his men to troop the colour with the other Guards regiments, but it's not going well.
Have on your boots.
It's a bit like, you know, being a test pilot, and every time you've flown the plane, it's crashed. But on the day, you're just hoping it'll all go right and you peak on the day.
His rivals, the Coldstream Guards, finish for the day, leaving a drill square deserted, apart from the Grenadiers. Steve has kept them back for an extra practice session to ensure that their drill is second to none.
These will aim off and follow you round. It's their job to do it. Done!
Guardsman Dan Too Tall Smith's chances of making the parade seem to be improving.
I finally got my tunic this morning, so hopefully they'll find me a space.
Little does he know that as far as Steve Munro is concerned, his tunic isn't the problem.
As soon as you get over 6'2", your ability to use your limbs as a normal person would starts to deteriorate. And the taller you get, the worse it gets, and that is fact. Anything over 5'11" is classed as too tall, and too tall I think is something like 8'3".
Forward, more pace, more pace.
A mile across London in Hyde Park, another grenadier is struggling to be ready for the big parade.
Forward, forward, ride him. It'll be the first chance you've had this lesson. You're using your heels to wedge yourself on. Drop them down. Last time of telling.
New regimental adjutant Grant Baker has spent the afternoon with the household cavalry, getting better acquainted with his horse, Snooker.
He's like a dead donkey.
Is he, sir?
Yeah, unreal. Couldn't make him move.
I've heard you can be stubborn at times.
Well, you were, weren't you? You were a bugger. Yeah, I think we made progress today.
Not exactly a great start, shall we say, but hopefully there's a lot more room for improvement.
You never know, maybe we're just beginning to gel together.
We tend to put our faith more in the horses than the riders.
See what happens next time.
It's almost 24 hours since Toby Barnes-Taylor left camp with his unit to protect Garmab village from a Taliban attack.
He's been coming down the track here, heading south, nice and straight. He's come under contact.
They're still not back, and radio contact has been lost.
In 1 hour 30, he's travelled 300 metres.
Colonel Carew Hatherley is using satellite tracking to monitor the situation.
The trouble is, I know it's now over an hour since we last had any communications with him, and it's getting dark. Well, they're going to be in a world of hurt if they come down there in the dark, aren't they? The last we heard, he was in contact with a relatively large number of Taliban. His com's gone down, but I'm still tracking him on the screen, so I'm happy he's still moving, and hopefully he can cut and run and get back to us as soon as possible.
2 hours later, Carew manages to re-establish radio contact with Toby.
Okay, Roger, Toby. You crack on. I'll speak to you when you get back to Rob. Hopefully, fingers crossed. That's them on a clear run now, back into Sangin itself. So it's a job well done. But that's been about 2.5 hours now of him being in contact. Toby and his guys have said to some of the tribal elders there that because they've taken a stand against the Taliban, clearly they are now targets for the Taliban. So they have agreed to escort them back down to Sangin, and the balance of power has shifted to us. We've just got to make sure it stays that way.
Toby and his unit are safe. But elsewhere in Afghanistan, another young grenadier has died, and his body is returning to RAF Lynham. Steve and his men carry him to the hearse. Guardsman Tony Downs was killed in a Taliban ambush. 6 weeks ago, while he waited for his flight to Afghanistan, he looked forward to the tour ahead.
It's not Ibiza, is it? It's like I can only explain it as being a feeling of worry and feeling of excitement, all mixed up as one, to be honest. In the last few days, I've been saying my final goodbyes to my family. Stuff, we've been out for nice meals and stuff, so it's been alright actually the last couple of days. And hopefully I can do it again on R&R. I'm already counting the days now. 8 weeks, can't wait.
Like many soldiers, Tony wrote a letter to his family in case the worst happened.
Right, as you all know, I've ended up getting the good news. So I thought I'd leave you with the last few words. Now I'm up in heaven, looking down on you all. I will always be there with you. You have been the best family any son can ask for. And I thank you for the life that I've had. So don't worry. I love you all now from the bottom of my heart. Please don't be mad at what has happened. I did what I had to do, and serving the British Army was it. Again, don't be sad. Celebrate my life, because I love you, and I will see you all again. Dad, thanks for everything. I love you so much. I hope I have made you proud, as that's all I wanted to do. Tony. Our son was just 100% the Grenadier Guard. He died doing what he loved. Yeah.
In Afghanistan, new recruit Stephen Cooper is taking his first watch on sentry duty, where he's got plenty of time to reflect on the year gone by.
This gives me a sense of pride that at the moment I'm like protecting Bastion. It's me protecting something and not someone like guarding me. Before I joined the army, I didn't really have no self-respect for myself because I was just basically still a scumbag. Some of the stuff that I used to do, I'm not really proud of. But like when you pass out on your pass out parade, you see all your family there watching you, and you just think, wow, I did that. Instead of disappointing my mum for all the stuff that I've done in the past. When she's broke, I'll lend her money, and because I've got more than enough. To actually finally give my mum back some of the stuff that she's given to me, really, really proud thing to do.
It's the day of trooping the colour. The Grenadiers are busy putting the finishing touches to their uniforms. "73 tunics must be pressed, 146 boots polished, and bearskins brushed to perfection. The Grenadiers always want to look their best, but they fear one thing above all else.
The worst thing would be to collapse and go down, go face first into the gravel, because that would be embarrassing. The only man out of 394 to go down. It'd be horrible.
But it's not just the soldiers who are worried about fainting.
I'm dreading it, yeah. I haven't fainted so far. In the rehearsal sometimes, I know it's bad, but I was kind of thinking, oh, it'd be easy if I did just faint, because then I could go.
While new band member Abby Davis now has her boots under control, she's still a bit wobbly about the spin wheel.
You have to kind of follow diagonally rather than in front and sideways. Kind of.
It's been the wettest June on record. Black clouds are looming over the palace, threatening to rain on the Queen's parade. But despite the threat of a soaking, crowds are already taking up position on horse guards and along the Mall. The rain showers haven't dampened the Grenadiers' spirit as they perform one of their most bizarre customs. On the morning of a big parade, it's army tradition to warm up with a spot of fancy dress aerobics. With the frivolity over, the guardsmen pick up their weapons on the way to change for the parade.
90 feet, please.
Snooker and Grant are also getting ready.
I'm going to shortly head off to Buckingham Palace forecourt, where hopefully Snooker will be waiting for me in a good mood. This is a funny old things, really. But I've got my packet of Pele's for him. Should work wonders, really.
Sergeant Major Kevin Bird is about to lead the band out on his last parade. He doesn't want any mistakes.
Just be aware today the streetliners are going to be down the Mall. Trombone players, especially on the front rank, we need to close up because rifles are sticking out because of the present arms and that sort of thing. Weather's not too bad out there. It's fairly cool. However, I would imagine if we're going to get some showers, they will be heavy.
But Steve Munro isn't worried about the weather.
Cheers. The sun will come out for Grenadiers. It's just a known fact. Because God loves Grenadiers. He's got a lot on his plate, I think, this morning. He's the Coldstreamers doing the escort. And God doesn't like Coldstreamers.
Too Tall has got his tunic and has a plan to sneak onto the troop.
I've swapped with one of the lads that was meant to be on the troop because he's done it before, so he said it's all right if I took over.
But he sticks out like a sore thumb and still has to get past Steve Munro.
It's not a free-for-all. Everyone knows where they're supposed to be going. But if you think after been rehearsing for nigh on 80 years to suddenly start changing what VODs are doing, the positions are in, no. That's just common sense, that, surely.
Steve isn't having it.
Too tall.
So Too Tall's troop dreams will have to wait till next year, as the rest of the Grenadiers join the other Guards regiments on the drill square, ready to troop the colour. Horse Guards parade is filling up with dignitaries waiting to see the troop. Around the world, millions of viewers settle down in front of their televisions for their annual fix of British military ceremonial.
Every one of you is good enough to be out there. Don't let yourselves down, don't let your regiments down, and don't let each other down.
There's going to be a lot of people. There are going to be a lot of armchair experts passing comment. Make sure they're not passing comment about you, although they may say you look like Stevie Gerrard. Here we go then.
The sun is shining brightly on Steve and the Grenadiers as they march out of the gate. And Snooker seems to be behaving as Grant rides up the Mall to Horse Guards parade. This is the moment they have spent months preparing for. Over the next 2 hours, every move they make will have to be inch perfect. Their first manoeuvre is to take up position to receive the Queen onto Horse Guards. The royal carriage, flanked by 170 cavalry, makes its way from Buckingham Palace. The Queen inspects all the troops from her carriage. The ranks reform into regimental lines in preparation to troop the colour. This year, it is the turn of the Coldstream Guards to lead the march past. As the colours are lowered in salute, the Queen acknowledges the battle honours the flag depicts. Steve leads the Grenadier salute, eyes right to the Queen, their Colonel-in-Chief. In Afghanistan, the Grenadiers' headquarters are quiet as the soldiers watch the parade on TV. Commanding Officer Colonel Carew Hatherley is part of the show.
The Coldstream looking okay there, and the Scots and the Welsh looking a little bit better, but obviously we would say this, the Grenadiers looking straightest in line and showing off a bit of panache. Well, it's part of what makes us unique.
Textbook. Got to get your mandatory dig in at the Coldstream Guards.
Major Marcus Elliott Square made it home from Afghanistan for the birth of his first child, Charlotte. In 2 weeks, he'll be back on the front line in Afghanistan.
It's only for a few more months, and you know, I've got the rest of my life with Charlotte. And since all she seems to do at the moment is feed and sleep, I don't think I'm missing out on too much.
Right! Turn!
As the parade reaches its conclusion, Kevin, Abby and the band of 210 musicians attempt the mysterious spin wheel. As the band swirl about, the Queen leaves Horse Guards and returns to Buckingham Palace. For the Grenadiers, it's a job well done. Grant Baker's electric bottom didn't spook Snooker. The guards all make it back to barracks without anyone fainting. Guardsman Jed Catlin fulfilled his lifelong ambition, marching in his father's footsteps. And he was impressed by the Queen.
When she inspects you, she might spy, she actually looks at you, which is kind of cool. I thought she'd look over us, but she's actually checking your kit. And when you give the eyes right and you look her in the eye, that's pretty good as well.
No one was quite sure if the spin wheel was a success, but Kevin Bird is relieved it's all over.
That was my last troop, guys.
Last side run by you.
Yeah.
Got hard on something? Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite emotional actually. The last time in Buckingham Palace playing the national anthem, the last march back. Yeah, it was great. Just tired. I need to go home now.
With the day's events coming to an end, Steve Munro is pleased with the Grenadiers' contribution.
Queen was happy, she gave me the thumbs up. Ask you what to say about Grenadiers? God. Loves us. It'll rain in a minute now, because it's over. It's weird.
At least the Grenadiers are home and dry, back in their barracks.